Hi guys. Hello everyone. Thanks for coming to this stream, this like roundtable discussion. Today with us we've got Zee.
Hey.
Hey. And with his channel, and then we have Dingo.
Hi.
From Dingo Doodles, and there's me, Ben from Puffin Forest, and today we're gonna just be doing a roundtable, just having a general conversation about stuff in D&D and RPGs and stuff like that.
For fun.
Yeah. Fun.
We're all animators in D&D.
Yeah. Our little tight group.
Yeah, I think we've decided that Zee is the only actual animator, and the rest of us are just kind of like static image move people.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys you're animating. I don't. What is it if it's not animation? You guys are animating.
It's moving pictures. It's different.
Yeah, I do more tweens. I think is the only huge difference. It's just a lot of tweening around. I actually recently got a comment from somebody who said that my videos make him motion sick.
What?
And I was like, I didn't say it. I guess I'm saying it now, but I was like, there's not a lot I can do for you. Because I do know why it's happening though. There's like a problem with large screen tweens. That sounds like in animes, which causes like a weird jitter where it's short frame distance, slightly longer frame distance. But it alternates between that going sideways and up and down. And so if you're really sensitive, it's got a little bit of a jitter. And I think but I can't do anything about it.
No, I understand.
In
animation, like we do kind of have to keep the motion up, like keep things moving and not hold too long. And I do understand that sometimes there's like when we're going to be lazy, it's like, oh, we're just going to hold on an image. Like, man, me lighting this torch is taking like 20 minutes to do while I'm telling the story or something like that.
Do you guys do you two have that same thing where like if you're watching your animation and there is a little bit too long of a hold, you like start to get anxiety?
Yeah, I do. And I actually and I actually have the problem where I shorten my I edit my audio to hell, like where I'm talking in the audio and then I cut it as soon as there's a breath, even though a breath is normal. It's like you have to breathe when you're talking, and I just I get really anxious when it comes to like periods of time where there's nothing being said, even though it's like a millisecond. But when you're animating, that millisecond feels like forever.
Yeah, because it's we animate it, and the thing is that if you have this like long pause, you're going to have to animate this long pause where there's nothing there. And the other thing is that at least if you have some like static image and you're like talking over it, at least you have the audio that's keeping people interested. But if you have no audio and no image, then it's just like it's kind of a dead space. Which could actually be useful in some jokes or something where it's like you pause, like, wait a second, what were we doing again? And then long pause and then cut to something else. That could be useful, but it's like
it could be it could be a good setup if you've got that like like it can give you a little bit more snap.
It's like comedic timing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually in my videos I had this issue where a lot of characters would have this dialogue, and I was editing out the breaks, the natural breaks that would come between different characters, and it led to a faster pace. But then what would happen is that people were pointing out to me is that, well, you have these characters, they're all talking and they're using your normal voice, and they will bump into each other, so it's difficult to tell where one character ends and another character begins their dialogue. So I had to either add a bit of a pause, or I had to manipulate the voices. So it's like something, 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 something. But if I use my normal voice as just something, 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 it's like just one long thing without a break.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely know what you're talking about.
That's actually good advice. That's good.
Well, the overlap thing though, I think works if you have different voice actors taking care of it. But if it's one person, I think it can be so close that people can feel the pitching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the pitch shift.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, like they can hear it's just you pitch shifting.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, they can hear it anyway, but there's something about it. It's like if you're listening to a song and then you pitch shift it, it sounds weird.
Yeah.
But if you heard it initially slightly pitch shift, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah. Do you guys have it that when you do voices that, you pitch shift or you just do like a funny voice, when you're animating it and kind of listening back to it, do you just like cringe? Because I do. I'm working on a video right now and there's a couple different voices that I'm doing and I'm just like, oh, like I'm not used to that yet. I'm just like, oh God, I'm so bad at acting.
Yeah, sometimes. But I would usually, if that happens, I'll re-record it until I don't feel that way.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so for me, I was listening back and I heard first time GMing where I had the elf character and her voice was like, I was trying to make it kind of irritating and then I re-listened back and I was like, no, this is actually kind of genuinely irritating. Like, so for me, if I do a female voice, like, oh no, we need to go over there. It's like, oh God. So I have to go, what is that? Maybe we need to do this or that. And it's like a little bit better, but it's still not where I want it to be. Some voices I do better than others. So it's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe we need to do that. And that's a little, like, I can go deeper. There are a few characters that I think that I did actually like doing the voice for. The latest video, Absurd, like, oh no, that sounds like a great idea. Like that one, that was a really weird voice. I think it came out okay.
Okay, so what topics do we want to talk about?
Okay, I'm pulling that up.
Okay, I've got...
let's talk about...
a bunch of... Yeah.
Oh, actually, I won't select. I'll have either Dingo or Zee do that.
No, do it.
Oh, God damn it.
Do it.
Okay.
Be our leader.
Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to be the leader?
You organize this. You have to do it.
All right, the group. Yeah, I was considering names. I was considering Ben and Friends. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
Ben and Friends?
That's actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
So,
we could do like a Garfield-style intro.
We just have like, we have your face on like Garfield's face.
Or it's
Exactly.
like you have my face and then it's like your two faces, but it's like my face takes up the whole image and then you can just see parts of your faces showing behind mine.
Yeah.
As yours just like progressively gets bigger and bigger in the screen.
I'm okay with that as long as it ends with the iconic bop from the old. Do you remember that? The Garfield and Friends show?
Yeah.
That last weird note.
Yep.
Yeah, but so talking actually I wanted to just get people's like history with D&D and RPGs and stuff like that because it's like I think I've introduced myself a little bit on my own Q&A video, and I guess I'll do a general thing, but I just want everyone to kind of introduce their like history with RPGs.
Sure. Dingo, go for it.
All right, gonna throw me first, huh? Yeah, well, okay, so D&D started for me when I was about 16. So 16, 17, so about 7 years. That was in high school, and we had a group of friends, and one of the friends was like, hey, my sister plays D&D. I have all her shit. Let's figure out how to do this. And he had no idea how to DM, or we all didn't know what to do. So it was quite a ride for a while. And
so let me just clarify. You didn't have like one person who had played before. It's like, we've all heard about it. Let's play.
Yeah, exactly.
Part. It's like at least if you have one person there who's played before, he can kind of be the mediator.
No, we had like books and then we had some dice. And the funny thing was that like we all kind of didn't tune in that we needed dice. So he had 1d20 and we had to pass it around playing because he's like, why the hell didn't you buy dice? And I was like, you never told us to buy dice. And then we just have this 1d20 that we're just like, all right, you roll. Okay, now I grab it. I roll too. And then we had one dice set, and that was the entire time.
Perception checks. Perception.
Yeah, exactly. It really would take like a solid minute just to get one skill check in. Like, it was interesting. It was fun. And then as soon as I went off to college, I found a group there. and we just been playing, and I play with that group right now. I have about 4 campaigns going on at the same time. One of them I DM, and then that's all I do. I don't play any other RPGs, just simply because we haven't explored them. Not because I'm like, no, I only want to play D&D. No, it's mostly just we never really thought about it.
Okay. Also, just to clarify, is it 3.5? That's the one you play? 3.5?
Yeah, I'm definitely 3.5 through and through. I'm trying to learn 5 because I have some stuff I want to learn from it, and that's just what I'm working on. So yeah. All right, Zee. Now I throw you into the fire. Go.
When I was younger, I had a falling out with some of my friends, which was over something dumb. I mean, it was a 13-year-old problem, which ended in fisticuffs, and
13-year-old drama.
Yeah, just bullshit, you know. When you're a little kid, like, and also that's right when the testosterone kicks in for boys, so you just start getting into like dumb fights about nothing all the time because you're essentially taking steroids. And so I kind of we had some Belgian friends that came by, and they were super into magic, and I didn't have any friends anymore because I fought them. And so I went down to the card shop to go pick up some magic cards because my Belgian friends were just like, "Oh, it's so cool, magic's so cool," you know, and like we're so fucking into it, and showed me the card. And I love the art and stuff because I was already a huge like fantasy and comic book nerd. And then when I went in, the card shop guy, Jamie, was like, nah, you can't, like, you could get magic cards, but you shouldn't. You should get Legend of the Five Rings cards. And I was like, what is that? And so then he pulled me into the world of L5R, which was this like really weird story-based game. And through that, I met a lot of older kids because I again, no friends. So I just went to the card shop every day and started making friends with the people down there. But they were all like in their 20s. And I was like young teens. And so one of the guys there, one of my fellow Scorpion players, asked me if I wanted a job. And because there was a carnival coming through town. And he had a job at the fudge stand with some very strange carnies, and they were looking for employees, and I was a very tall 14-year-old at this point. And so I got my first job candying and vending nuts. I was a nut vendor, and far before
Sorry.
I should have been. No, it's fine. And,
It's just like these.
Yeah. Yep. I used to, I made them nice and sweet. So I was working insane, like 12-hour days every day. And with him, we would ride out to the fairgrounds in the mornings and at night, and he would regale me with tales of what he and his D&D group had done. And I remember just being like, I don't understand what form a game like this takes. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're first hearing D&D stories, you're like, what does this game look like? Are you guys out in a field?
That's I will say, like, it's the hardest thing to try and explain to people is it's like, oh, what is your, like my mom's trying to explain it, like, oh, what does your son do? It's like, oh, he makes, videos online about tabletop RPGs. What are tabletop RPGs? It's like, oh, they tell stories and roll dice, and it's like a board game, but not really. It's like,
it was crazy.
I just recently tried to explain D&D to pretty much a bunch of like 70-year-old, 80-year-old old ladies that I work with, and it was definitely like like, bless their hearts, I was really trying, and they were really trying to understand. And I'm just like, you roll these dice, and then you make these calls, and then you can cast magic and stuff like that. And they're like, that's so nice. It's so nice. And it's like, okay, all right.
Sometimes the problem I have is that they'll say, oh, yeah, it's just like Settlers of Catan or something. They try and connect it with something, and I'm like, well, I mean, they're both board games, I guess. I mean, it's kind of similar. Like,
you sit at a table.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely. It's hard because people use those hoping that there'll be some kind of a touchstone, but it's the same thing if you do like tech support for somebody who doesn't really know how computers work, and then they start using terms that they only half understand in order to describe something to you. But they're saying to them, my hard drive is broken is like, it could mean that their email is not loading fast enough. Do you know what I mean? Like their touchstone throws you off the trail completely, and then you start trying to explain from the wrong angle, and it just it's just a mess.
It gets muddled.
Yeah.
But also Zee did not finish his story.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
you were making nuts.
I feel like this should be a movie. Like, this is gonna be.
Yeah, just me being verbally abused by older kids because they were in their late teens during these rides, and so in between, just like relentlessly, viciously making fun of me, they would tell these crazy stories of like their Romani band who tricked the local lord and had a trap door in the base of their carriage or whatever, and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, this sounds awesome. I thought it was LARPing. And then eventually he, explained it was at a table. That didn't make any sense. And finally one day I went back to the card shop, laid down heavy with all of my nut money. And I found out that they were running a 7th Sea event, which is a game that's like sort of loosely related to L5R. It's the same company that made it. So like if you were into L5R, you were into 7th Sea. So I was like, this sounds great. Sat down at the table. I played a wizard. First character was a wizard. And I immediately, upon being put on the ship, started like murdering NPCs because I had only played video games. So I was like, okay, well, these guys are like, there was a little like, introductory prods like, so these guys all have like money. Yeah. And like weapons and yeah. They're people. And I was like, okay, time to start mowing them down with lightning. And so I like Emperor Palpatine like 2 NPCs, and they threw me in the brig.
Good first impression.
It was bad. Yeah, it was really bad. But I mean, I didn't know. You know what I mean? I think back on that, I'm just like, oh my god, this is fucking terrible. So that was my intro to role playing games in general. That was I think because I was like a young asshole. That was a very short lived campaign. Because I was the only one who wanted to play the next week. And then, not to extend too much into a separate story, but I think I learned manners at the table when I started playing with a group of 30-year-olds, 30 and up. There was one guy who was like 60 when I was about 16, and I wanted to have like some weeaboo fucking character that came down from the sky. You know what I mean? I wanted to be born in a comet. And and so I had my character all set up, and I was like, okay, so I come down from the sky, like I fall from the sky, and the DM was like, you what? And I was like, I come from the sky because of my character. He's like, he's like half angel, half demon, or whatever the fuck.
Yes.
15-year-olds think is cool. And he was like, okay, you fall from the sky, your character dies. Here is a rogue. And he just handed me a pre-genned rogue. And then
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is.
And then I played a rogue, and I was like, fuck, this is actually really great. They just taught me, I guess they very brutally taught me these lessons.
gently. Kaboom! Dead.
Yeah, dead.
Yeah, it is because I think everyone has that moment when they first get into D&D or any kind of an RPG where learning about the concept of like consequences or just like something hits you where it's like, oh, like this is a real world, or the GM like sells it to you in that moment.
Yeah. 100%.
I remember I got really nervous. I think this was like the second campaign, but our campaigns at the beginning didn't run too long. And I had like a legit like stomach drop feel when I had to talk to a dragon for the first time. Where I was just like, oh no, I really don't want to do this. And my DM, who is my very good friend, he is very sinister, and I knew he was going to mess with me. He just knew it. And I was like in his basement, and he's like, okay, you are now face to face with this dragon. And I'm going like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I just went upstairs and sat in the bathroom for like 15 minutes thinking like, how am I going to talk to this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to talk to this dragon? I really don't want to get like burned alive.
That's hilarious.
We had, I remember there was one moment in a lot of our games, my games sound a little bit different from your guys's, where a lot of our GMs actually avoided killing people like a lot. You know, I think I've had like one or two characters like actually get dead. Like sometimes they die, not die kind of a thing. And it was like so the GMs would really avoid that I played with. And there was one time where we were in this game and we'd been playing for like 8 months, and one of the long running characters died. And it's like, oh, we can get him back. Don't worry, we'll just do this. And it's like, no, that's not going to work because he's dead now. And it's like, oh. And we all had this like
it
silence.
hits you.
And I don't know if I told this story, but it was like we went to, after the thing was over, we went out and we were going to have dinner, and we were just talking about like, man, you know, he lived a good life. Like he died doing what he wanted to do. You know, he was out there on the front lines. You know, he took the blast right to the face, and it was a really genuine moment where it's like we were all like kind of grieving for this character and having to like work through it. You know.
Yeah.
Gotta hold a little funeral.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I definitely come from the sort of old school Colville. I mean, I guess it's because when I started playing out, like I said, I was playing with like between 30 and 60-year-olds, and this was 15 years ago, right? So they were the old guard, and they didn't give a shit about killing your character.
They probably enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, so then when I started playing games like D&D, or not D&D, but just like role-playing games with my friends back home, like that's what I brought back. Do you know what I mean? So our group is, all of the groups I played in are like, you better enjoy character creation because you're going to do a lot of it. And because of that, the stakes are so high when you get into any sort of conflict that a lot of the groups that we've been in have a problem where they run away from adventures.
Because they really don't want to die, huh?
Yeah, well, because they're like, no, this is going to be too hard. We're all going to fucking die. I love my items. Screw this. And then you just like, in fact, I had that happen. My last session that I ran, the entire party just got into they stole a bunch of like random animals, strapped them to their cart, and just started flying south as like the big bad just like got way, like managed to complete all of his nefarious plans.
It was so with my groups, they were very like, they really avoided it. I think they learned from a lot of like streamers, like some had watched Critical Role, others Acquisition Incorporated, and stuff. And so because of that, they'd watch them and were like, huh, these characters aren't getting killed off every episode or something like that. So I think that's what they took away, and then that is what came to their games. And something about, you know, they were very strong in the narrative. And what I mean by strong in narrative, as in like the concept that the narrative is tied around these individual characters, and then if the character dies, you lose that narrative.
Yeah.
And once again, definitely. I just want to say, this is not like me bashing any particular format or lethality. Right now, I'm kind of experimenting with different forms of lethality. and experimenting with different groups and seeing which ones like it, which ones don't. I do find that I have some veteran groups where they've been playing like very, very gentle games where their character didn't even have a prayer of dying. And they are like, we want to feel that lethality. We want to know going in, like, there is a pretty high chance that we may not make it out, or not all of us or something. And so I've been bringing that to them. But then I have another group where they're a bunch of new players. They're kind of learning the rules and stuff like that. And I don't want to just slam them. And I feel like they're interested in growing a character because they've never had a character grow and get items and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing with them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, okay, so actually this brings us into one of our other topics, which is friendly versus adversarial DMing. But I think, I'm very pro, not adversarial. I think adversarial, like, maybe is the wrong term for it, but definitely, like, highly lethal games where, I guess it is adversarial, highly lethal games where you're a little scared of your DM. Do you know what I mean?
No, I understand what you're saying.
Go ahead.
Where it's like there is kind of this idea of like, kind of I have to not really outsmart, but it's like you gotta like if the GM is like if you just offer if there's a low hanging fruit and you put it out in front of the GM's just gonna take it, like that kind of a thing, or something about you do like kind of have to play a little bit clever maybe. Yeah, exactly. I think maybe that's the problem with the word adversarial, because I want to have fun too. Like I want them to have fun. Like I'm not there to murder them and just like ruin. Or the idea is more about like I want them to feel real threat, so that the payoff feels real. And I think I've had a few games where I've played as a character in a less lethal game. And I get bored, you know what I mean? Like I'm not necessarily with the story, because the story is great or whatever. But we had a group that was with a pretty gentle DM, and what we ended up doing is we just opted. We took a bunch of ranks in exhaustion because of a swimming encounter, and then we just opted to not rest. No short rest, no long rest, no nothing. We're going in with the spell slots that we have, with the ability slots that we have, and we're going to go in with 1/3 of our power into the big bad's room. I actually understand that. I actually understand that. It's almost like you're like you want it more difficult, and so you tie one of your arms behind your back, like narratively, and it's like let's see what happens.
Yeah, and it brings out more of like a creative drive of like, okay, I don't have, level 3 spells anymore. How can I get through this with only level 1s or cantrips? Like, how do I get through this? And you start to think outside the box.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that actually that ended up, in this one case, it ended up saving our asses because because it was a puzzle fight. So normally I think we would have tried to fight it. Like just brute force the problem. But this time we walked in and we were like, okay, we cannot defeat a building, like a demon the size of a 2-story building right now. There's got to be some puzzle element here. Otherwise we're fucked. And then, that like forced us to look at the environment a little bit more closely.
Yeah, it's that brings up another conversation about like difficulty and stuff like that, where the issue I sometimes have is that if you make the thing like too difficult, then what you're like there's the potential you might end up limiting the players, because in a puzzle kind of a situation there's like optimal solution. There might be several optimal solutions, but there's like definite bad choices or something. And then sometimes in an RPG you want the choices to be open, you want players to have freedom, but then on the flip side it's like if it's too difficult, it's like I don't want to kill your character off for doing something that's narratively cool as opposed to doing something that's optimally cool, and it's like it's something that I struggle with personally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Merles has a thing that he talks about where he's just like always leave at least one brute force solution to every problem.
Yeah.
I try to when I DM, I try to have like in my mind a rough like, okay, they could solve this like 3 different ways. Like there's either the brute force or the very like stealthy whatever, and then maybe they could talk themselves out, and then of course they do option number 4 because they never do your 3 options but you want to be ready for it. But that's what I think is the fun part about all of it, is that everybody comes at it a different way and just kind of goes for it.
Although sometimes what will happen is that sometimes the players will pick a particular option, and then that's going to be the hammer, and they always use it on the same thing. And this is, it's kind of the like game theory of like what options do you put in the front of the players. Whenever they find something that works, they're just going to use that one, and then it's like, is it okay just letting them use it, or do you try and like force them to like change it up and stuff like that? Because some of my players, like one time, they would just like try to persuade everything, and to some extent it got a little bit ridiculous at points where it's like they just go around a mansion like, can I have that? Can I have that? Can I have that? Can I have that? Because they're like looking for a success or something. But in that note, it's usually because you don't punish failures enough.
Okay,
yeah, so you need some karma.
Well, while we're on the subject of punishing failures, I asked for some questions from people in the Discord channel that I run.
Yeah.
Right.
And Casual Nerdiness asks, as a DM, what my least favorite, well, not mine, but really yours, your least favorite player character has been. And
for
what
me to play?
Sort of, no. That's interesting. I don't think that that's what they meant, but maybe it was. I just assumed they meant like who in your group has irritated you. But I guess actually that might be what it... Let's answer... That's a much better question.
Oh, okay. Which character have I just been... Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I'm trying to remember exactly... as far as the least favorite character, I think there was one time, like, I played this, like, tiefling for a bit who was just kind of brooding and quiet or something and didn't want to talk to people. And then I got, like, 10, 15 minutes into the character. I'm like, 99% of playing an RPG is talking to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the communication of it all.
Yeah, that was probably my least favorite. I know this is going to actually sound like a weird one, is that I found with Absurd, I was playing him last week. He was hello there, it's good to making acquaintance with you, how are you? And stuff like that. His character, the thing is that he sucked at everything, and he had this great personality, and I liked playing with him. But the problem is that a lot of times the group would be deciding, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? And my character would have to be in the corner, because he couldn't be part of the group, because it's like they were like planning an attack, and it's like my character didn't have that many capabilities. And for one shot, it was pretty cool playing that character, but like on a longer run thing, it would be very difficult to make that character work, because it's like, oh, this is a serious moment. Like I kind of have to be off to the side doing some other stuff,
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think definitely my worst experience with that was like, I built at some point, one of our DMs sat us down and had a daddy talk, where he's like, I have a longer form adventure that's going to take us at least a year to get through, and I need you guys to not be crazy. And I think basically he was saying like he wanted us to act a little bit more
civil,
C-teamy, if that makes sense, like kind of more like a Ack Inc. crew, where you sort of see the rail and then you go on the rail, as opposed to like
no derailers.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we're a whole group of derailers. And so the result was that we all built characters. I think there was too much pressure, and we knew that we're going to be playing these characters for so fucking long that we all tried to build versatile characters, and so we ended up with an entire fucking group of spell swords. Do you know what I mean? Like different approaches to the same thing, but basically we all built main characters. If that makes sense.
Oh no,
no, I understand.
Oh no, the protagonist. Or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So they all had like some magic, a little bit of combat. I played a sorcerer in that, and I kind of built a little bit more of like a dex fighter sorcerer. And I ended up having such a bad time playing the character that I asked if I could do a respec. And I just turned him into a cannon.
No.
And then from that point on, I had more fun with I turned him into a cannon and a complete asshole and a maniac. And then I was like, okay, this is better. I'm much more comfortable being a secondary character than trying to build out this like deep story. Especially when your entire group is like trying to do the same thing. Because we had a paladin, a eldritch knight, and then like I'm trying to remember, and then a warlock who was built with a fighting speciality. So I was like, we're all the same fucking character.
Yeah, just with different names and faces.
Exactly, and all of us dark pasts.
Yeah, it's I do know that it's like with like podcast, or you were talking about how they were all taking it very seriously. I've seen it several times where people have done podcasts, and I've been on, or other people have, and I've seen it like with like the entire dynamics of the group change, where it's like people take it a little bit more seriously, or if they're going to jump into the story and say something when you aren't on a podcast, they'll just jump in. But other times they'll be like, no, it's got to be something witty, like, or it's got to be this moment that they jump in.
Oh yeah. No,
I can see that.
Yeah. Okay, so this more sanitized question, I think you can probably answer, Dingo.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm trying to really think about all the characters I played, and there was definitely like a character I played. Her name was, what was her name? It was Sill, so Sill, and she was a drow, and she was a rogue. But she had, once again, the kind of like brooding past and like didn't want to talk to anybody. And she's actually one of my characters that actually survived at the end. A lot of my characters, die. Just recently, I've actually had some characters that survived, and I'm like, oh, you're the first ones for a really, really long time. But yeah, I think Syl was definitely the one that was just like, she wouldn't talk to anybody, and she always was like, no, I can't discuss my past, And she was kind of like a handful. And eventually, because I played a lot of rogues, it kind of became boring, Like it was just like, I go, I stab, and I loot. And now I'm going. So that's why I started to move more towards like sorcerers and monks. I've been playing a little bit of monks. So yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Also, I don't think I heard your perspective on the deadliness of a game, Dingo. Maybe I got shocked out of remembering.
No, I think what happened is that the two of us were having a conversation on the deadliness. I don't like to interrupt. I have a really bad problem of just like a lot of people are like, you should talk, and it's like, but they're so intriguing. Like I want to hear them, and then I feel like if I jump in, it's not adding too much. But I think for the deadliness of a campaign, well, I definitely have had both sides. I've had, one that's just out for the characters to be dead and just like, oh, really? You do that? Okay, you're dead. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then I've had the other side where it's like, we could do practically anything and we probably wouldn't die. Like even because the DM really wants us to fulfill the story, you know, and we're like the protagonists, right? But the thing is that I find it interesting where, let's say we have that DM, the one that's pretty, wants to keep you alive. I think it's interesting if your character does die and then you have like a quest around it. Like, I think that's fun. I think that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's definitely like, I've had it a couple times where the DM I've been with that is very light on us, they've had moments where they hit us hard and we're like, oh, okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Never mind. You're not as forgiving, where like our characters have been like 1 point away from permadeath. Yeah. So yeah, I really like that balance though. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I think having like that on occasion, that one encounter that just slams the players where, I mean, not intended to, but it's like where you just commit, like it really sells the reality of the thing. And you don't have to do that every single session. It's just like if it just happens to happen once in a while, it can sell the reality of the world. And then anytime they go to an encounter, they're like, oh, is this going to be one of those kinds of encounters or not?
Yeah, it really keeps you on your toes. Where it's just like, oh, never mind. I'm never going to take anything for granted because we were super close to death. So, yeah. Well, I wanted to ask a topic. And I wrote it in that I wanted to talk about it. But because we're all like animators or, you know, like we said, maybe lazy animators, just Ben and I. But like this is becoming more and more a thing of D&D animation. I mean, it's fairly small at the moment, but I can tell by, you know, people who tweet at me and who message me, seems like they really want to get into it too, you know? And I was wondering if you guys had any advice for them.
Yeah, we'll start with Z.
Yeah, you go first. Throw you into the fire first.
I don't know. I would say that. Oh, I know. I've got to think. I've got to think on this.
That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Why don't you go first?
Okay. So my thoughts. So one of the things is you did point out earlier that it's like we're developing a community, and that's really weird because like this community did not exist like a year ago, kind of a thing. Or it's like, oh, you know, like you'd kind of see these videos one-off on occasion, like, oh, you know, popping in and doing D&D, but like the idea of doing them on a regular basis was still kind of like weird. And so we are kind of growing a little bit of a community. And so what I have planned is I have a big thing planned. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to recruit some more people, and we're going to make a little group, and it's going to be 12 people. We're all going to have animal themes. So like I'm a puffin. Okay, Dingo, you have the electric bunny. We've got the bunny. Okay, Z, you're going to have to get an animal as well. There's going to be 12 of us. We're going to call ourselves the Zodiacs. It's going to be, you know, like, we're going to be here. We're going to be making content. Everyone's going to hate us. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
What happens if there's a 13th person?
If it was a rap group, we would have to call ourselves the Zodiac Killers. For sure.
As far as 13th person, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Then what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's just like, no, you're not allowed to come in here.
What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, like, once we get to 13, we'll have to get a new number, like the 88, the crazy 88 or something like that. And then we'll have to get more people to recruit up to that new number. But
hey, listen. Yeah. All right. Shit. You want to start a group? All right.
No.
No, I mean, look, that's an interesting idea. I do like it.
No, I'm just bullshitting. Anyway, so
we know that.
No, dude, I know you are, but I come on over to my Discord. I'll add a group. We'll call it the Zodiac Killer.
But anyway,
I won't have the police knocking on my door.
We have an actual or as far as actually answering the question on how to get into it. One is it kind of depends on where people are starting from. Like sometimes what'll happen, the issue is you have to learn like animation or drawing and then how to record videos and stuff like that. So from kind of talking with people, sometimes it's like if people are starting with nothing, it's like they got a really big uphill climb because then they have to start like learning how to draw, and then drawing is like the precursor to or the prerequisite for figuring out how to animate. So it's like you kind of have to study drawing and then have to do voice work. And I think that honestly, the first set of videos, like if someone is getting into it, the first set of videos are just to like practice and figure out like. If you try and like, oh, let's get some people in here like watching the videos and stuff like that might put too much pressure. Like just kind of be practicing and learning as you go.
Because I find it interesting because you didn't used to draw. Like,
yeah.
Like you said you didn't really like it.
Oh, I hated it. Hated it.
Yeah, so I think that's very interesting where it's like you you started from that point where you were just like, I really want to do this thing, but I have no idea how I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, I started 2 years ago, and I absolutely hated drawing because it's slow, it's painful, it's ugly, anything I drew, but and it's like, but it's, the thing is that I look at art and I view it as a language, and it's like, you don't just do A, B, C's and studying the alphabet. It's like, you have to study the alphabet to get to that point where you can just, the work just comes out of you, where you know what you have in your head and it just comes out, and like, you have to practice to get to that point, and then eventually it becomes fun, because at that point, that's when you're able to experiment and create some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's those 10,000 hours you put into it.
Yeah.
And like they say, it takes 10,000 hours to get good at something, or like professional or something. I don't know.
No, yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Zee, did you actually, or did you think some more on it and have anything to say?
Did I formulate a thought? All right, so I feel like I'm definitely the cruelest of our trio. But at least in my views on character death and stuff like that, I think with art, with trying to make stuff for YouTube, it's a weird thing, because I think that a lot of people have fantasies of success, which include these really unrealistic expectations about the speed at which you can build your audience, and the speed at which you're going to be able to sort of gather steam,
like a following.
Yeah. It's like
go ahead.
The reality of the internet is that it's like dropping into a well, just woo, and it goes down. And everyone has the big fear when they first get into it, like, oh my God, I'm going to put it out there, everyone's going to see it, and everyone's going to hate me. And the reality is, no one cares. No one. It's like you say, you're just shouting into this empty void, and it just vanishes. And just the idea that, like, when you first start out, if you have like 4 or 5 people who want to look at your stuff, like, that is huge. Like, oh my God.
So I mean, the thing that I would say is, the thing that I would say is, if you want to do this stuff and if you want it to work, don't set up false obstacles for yourself. Don't set up false goals and false goalposts of like, okay, well, before I can do this, I need this equipment and I need this amount of training and I need all of X, Y, and Z, and I need to have an audience already built up. And before I even start doing my videos, I should probably have my supplement that I'm going to release on DM's Guild, but then I've got to maybe get Volos and all these other supplements to make sure I'm not doubling. Just stop it. Do whatever you need to do. Do it consistently and just keep putting it out there. And maybe if you're really lucky, it'll get noticed. And for some people, I mean, so also I want to talk about this in terms of Dingo, because a lot of people have a false perception that you came out of nowhere and just had a YouTube channel, which is bullshit. Like you already had an audience. They weren't on YouTube yet, but you had a platform that you were working from. So I don't know, maybe you can talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much I started with Electric Bunny Comics 2012, and I've just been working on it ever since. Like every week I would put out a little comic, and eventually I got to like 15,000 followers on or likes on Facebook, and that was like, that's huge. Like for me anyway, it was huge, because it was like, oh, I actually have like that's a really big flash mob. Like that's a lot of people. And when I did, I'd been doing it for a while, and I got to this point where I was just like, I really would like to make something where I don't have to worry about impressing people. Because with Electric Bunny, I felt like it has to be funny. Like, I really want to make sure people really like this. And then I kind of thought of the YouTube channel as like I could go off and make things that I like and just do it without a second thought. Like, just put it out there. And I didn't really want to think about the impact. I just wanted to do it. And that's why it was kind of crazy when it was just like I did my first two, the intro and then the karaoke, and it kind of just went like just blew up. And I'm like, I got 15,000 followers that I'd worked for 5 years to get on Facebook, on YouTube in like 2 weeks. And I was just like, oh, are you kidding me? It was crazy. And but I still want to have that idea in my head that it's like I still want to do stuff and make stuff that I like. And if I had advice for people who wanted to get into this, and because I'm still very new at this, I think I'm in my 3rd month or so, be open to critique. Critique is a big part of being anybody who puts out anything. You need to learn. You need to see what other people's viewpoints. And let me be super clear that there's a difference between critique and somebody just being an asshole.
Yeah, like, just dicks. Yeah.
Yeah. If like you can definitely read a comment that it's like, you're stupid and you suck and like I don't like your content, and it's like that's a jerk. But if they wrote like I don't like your content, your hands are too small, and it's like, okay, I cut away the first part and I think about why do they think my hands are too small? Like I've drawn them, and then I kind of like take that and then I kind of think about it, and if it really is a point that I think I need to get better on, I get better on. And it's all for interpretation. It's all about what you think for yourself would improve yourself, right? So, anybody who's getting into anything that's creative, just be able to accept critique and not take it as a personal attack. Because the people who are critiquing you are wanting you to get better. Like, they already are there watching your stuff, but they're trying to help you get better. Though some of them can definitely come across as jerks, but a lot of them are really just like, hey, maybe you could try this and add a little bit of this. And I'm like, thank you. Like, nobody else could say that to me. Like my friends, maybe, because I have a bunch of art friends. So yeah, they can critique it. But, like my family are like, it's beautiful. And it's like, okay, that doesn't help as much. But the internet will always be, very blunt.
I'd like to take this moment to tell all those critiques, those critics out there, definitely hang out on Dingo's videos. Leave me alone.
It's okay. I will take the critique. It's quite fine. I think that's the interesting part.
Because there's so much stuff, so many suggestions people give me are so bad. They just give me these fucking awful, and I know they're trying to help, but they'll say stuff that I'm just like, well, okay, well, listen, I 100% understand why you would think from your perspective that what you're saying is logical and would work, but YouTube doesn't make any sense.
No, I understand what you're saying, where sometimes the issue is like you'll get suggestions from people and their suggestion is like, on my, like it seems simple, like, oh, why don't you add color? Or why don't you do this? Or why don't you double this? Or instead of making the videos 10 minutes, why don't you make them 10 hours? Like, I would like to watch that something. And they don't necessarily think about the ramifications of it, but it's like the thing is that you on your end, as us receiving the feedback, like it is our responsibility to, whenever we hear some kind of a feedback, like to judge whether or not we are going to add it to our work or not. And it'd be like if someone were to write to me and said, like, I want you to release a video every single day. It's when I'm up at midnight trying to make the video, swearing to myself, like swearing about them, for forcing me to make this video. It's like, but at the end of the day, if I did that, that's on me. You have to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You have to filter it for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead. There's a lot of really weird psychology when you talk about like getting feedback and listening to people in the comments and stuff like that, where the reality is that a lot of times when people come to a video and they just don't like it or it's not for them, they just say, this isn't for me, and they leave. And really, those are the kind of people that I want to keep. You know, those are the people that I'm after and that I'm interested in. And sometimes the people who stay, who are writing comments, sometimes there are people who it's like, oh, I like it 99%, but there's like 1 or 2% that they're have an issue with. And in addition to that, a lot of times the things which cause people to leave are issues with the composition. Like the joke wasn't funny. It was too fast, or it wasn't fast enough. Something about it, like they couldn't understand the story. And that's something that's so difficult to write to someone and say, like, the composition is bad. It doesn't have a good tone. It doesn't, something's off with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one big thing that happens though is you will see the nature of the comments change as that view counter rises. They definitely start out real happy, and then they take on a darker tone as people start to get to that tipping point. I think the tipping point is usually around 400,000, and then people will kind of go like. Then people come to the video and they're like, why the fuck does this have 400,000 views?
Oh, yeah.
They get like mad at you.
The irony is that the most popular stuff is usually the stuff that comes under the biggest scrutiny. Like, for example, as much as we complain about being under scrutiny, like anything that's on TV, like Steven Universe or Adventure Time or any of those cartoons on TV, they're under so much scrutiny under every message board, When the channel was starting to grow and it had like 50 people, I'm like, oh, wow, that's like a big classroom that I'm talking to. And then 100, I'm like, wow, that's like a lecture hall's worth of people, like half of a lecture hall. And then 500 people, I'm like, wow, that's like, that's like an auditorium full. And then when it got up to like 10,000, I'm like, that's a really big number. And then it jumped to 50,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 5 times that number. And then it jumped to 200,000. I'm like, that's... It's even bigger.
Yeah.
I used to think of my audience as like a big if everybody did a flash mob with me. And eventually it got to the point where I'm like, if I had a flash mob of like 10,000 people, we'd definitely get arrested.
That's a riot. That's not a flash mob.
Yeah, that's a riot. Yeah, that's not a flash mob anymore.
The irony is the fact that it's like we're actually like relatively small. I mean, compared to the on YouTube, like we're little tugboats and the big guys are, and we're getting pushed out of the way.
That's true.
But that's the thing about the YouTube land and YouTube like medium, that even if you're like, oh, I'm just getting the dregs, it's like the dregs are just these massive gold specks or something, or it's a lot of people actually.
It's pretty crazy. But I mean, YouTube is just a weird fucking environment. Like, it's so much easier once you get through that first 10,000. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And then once you get to 20,000, getting to 30,000 is easy. 40,000. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going from 0 to 10 is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, usually, again, there are exceptions. But yeah, it's a weird thing. But okay. Something though that I wanted to temper my earlier maybe like angry grandpa on his steps, yelling at you young kids trying to get on the YouTubes, is. And I think that you guys would probably agree with this. I don't think that my videos do well because they're good. I think they do well because something happened. I got lucky. I uploaded at a very specific time of night during a specific day where whatever one of my videos got pushed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The luck came into play.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I want to ask you guys actually, like, how do you feel about the difference between luck and skill? Like, where do you think it lies? I definitely am on the luck side.
I mean, I always think it has a little bit of both. But for somebody where, like, when I grew up, I was a very lucky person. Like I grew up in a, like middle class family and everything. Like I had a nice life, but I had a lot of moments where I was like, you're lucky. And I have so many instances in my life where luck was a huge play of things. Like I'm the person where I'll walk down the street and I'll find like a $20 bill.
100%.
Just like that luck just comes to me.
Yeah.
And it really is like there's no reason for it. I'm, just a normal person. But for some reason, I'm very, very lucky in all the things that I do. And I don't know if that really comes from, like skill in general. Because there's a lot of people who draw a lot better than I do, and they could easily, like there's a lot of storytelling channels that they draw and animate way better than I do, but for some reason they haven't been picked up. And it's like, why? They're so like talented and stuff, and I think it's just about having that luck of somebody seeing it and then sharing it, and then somebody else that sees it and shares it, and they just like lock onto each other, and it just becomes this snowball of somebody who has a big follower count, tweets it out or, reblogs it or whatever, and then it just, that's a luck thing. I see it as. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it could also be the fact that you guys are just positive people, and positive people happen to be deluded that they're lucky. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, this is something that I've thought about quite a lot myself, and there's a few factors. One is just the fact that, like, okay, luck. Even if we assume that luck plays a factor, which we know it does, we just don't know the value of it. The problem is that because it is not a factor that we can manipulate in any way, shape, or form, we have to just kind of shelve it and then care about everything else, because that is a factor. Like, I don't have any control over this, but I do have a control over these factors. So these are the factors that I'm going to worry about.
Right.
And as far as luck and skill and stuff like that, like, it's like I can definitely tell, like with you guys, like you spent a lot of time and work, trying to develop your art style and stuff. And I remember Dingo, actually, before she had started up the YouTube channel, she had contacted me and said, like, yeah, I'm putting out videos, I'm gonna get into it. I'm like, yeah, and she had 100 subscribers or something. And I was like, okay, cool. And I clicked on her video, and the thing is that before that point, before you'd messaged me, I had like 20 people approach me saying that they were starting up a channel and who had sent me the video. I'm like, good luck, and I'll give you I'll try and promote you. We'll get it out there. And every time I had done that, the channel had just died. And and it's like, so I kept promoting these different channels and stuff like that. And it's like I took one look at your video and I could tell that you had 5 years worth of experience, because I'm like, this is your first video? But and what was funny was I didn't even like promote it. I think I tweeted it once, but you had more followers than me. And I think honestly it was just like you had a little bit of flame, and then it was able to travel by word of mouth. And what I think happens is that when you talk about the growth of a channel, it's all about like word of mouth, like how the audience reacts to it. And unfortunately, part of it, sometimes it's not as much like quality per se, like air quotes quality, more just like, is there something funny about it? Is there something inspiring? Is there something interesting? Does it make me laugh? And you could release a video and it's just kind of meh or okay, and it's just going to be gone the next day. But if you give someone something that makes them laugh, makes them think, like that video is going to stay with them for like the rest of their lives sometimes, where it's like they'll always be thinking back on it. Or it's like, I remember watching Homestar Runner and I still think, tractor! That line, because it's like when you see something that's like that, it just sticks with you. And I think us as artists, we don't know exactly, like we don't have any magic formula or how this works, but we're always trying to push the art and try and get that thing, and see how people react to it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think also, all right, in terms of real tips that you can take into your profession, if you are working on something which is truly original, you are creating a world-class restaurant in the middle of a field that no roads lead to.
Yeah. I definitely...
Right.
Yeah.
So if your first videos, before you have anybody around, I'm not saying you have to pander to people, but being close to search metrics is the same as being on a busy street, right? So people are going to tend to kind of like stumble on you a little bit more often than if you are making something which is completely original, or about something incredibly obscure. So that's one of the reasons I think that 5e has been such a godsend for creators, is because it really has united a lot of the tabletop hobby under one kind of metric, if that makes sense.
No, I understand. Yeah, because
that totally makes sense.
If we're all apart, like with our own little like individual communities, it's so hard to come together. And then not only that, but they'll just burst like a little bubble that starts to form and just pop. And it's like I know that in my area, like you'll see a bunch of different D&D and Adventures League groups pop up, but it's very difficult to get like a mage group or Legend of the Five Rings group or something, because it's like you got to find people with similar interests and they all have to be in the same area with the same time frame and stuff like that, and then it's that community that grows it.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
And I totally know what you mean, Zee, when it comes to like one of my first comics that went big for myself was a Star Wars comic. You know, it was like a parody that I did of Star Wars, and before, you know, I just did my own jokes and everything, and then I was like, oh yeah, you get like, you know, 10, 15 views, and you're like, oh, that's so awesome. And then you put out something that resonates with the community of like pop culture, and they know these characters. They know that why this joke is funny, because like, oh, that's a parody, right? And people really like that stuff. And it can be hard to hear, especially when I started, when people are just like, yeah, you got to make stuff about pop culture and references and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to do my own content and my own stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was just like, well, maybe like I always wanted to do parodies of pop culture things. And then as I did it, people could just resonate better with it. They could just hold on to it and share it with their friends, and they get the joke, right? It's like this inside thing that, you know, millions and millions of people know about, right? Mm-hmm. So it can really be a stepping stone for you to just like you said, build those roads and those connections. And my video for the D&D story, like the tag is D&D story, right? And that's why when they would watch your stuff, your guys' stuff, my video would pop up on the side.
Yeah.
Because I just, you know, tagged it right.
Yeah, and once again, if other people are doing it, I'm letting the audience know. Like, if anyone is interested in, like, oh, I think I might want to do something, like, do it. Like, that's, you know, it's that thing. When a rising tide raises all ships, you know, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Do it and keep doing it. Because I don't know. Actually, you know what? If I sorry, just like almost just gave up on life. Like my life force left me. It's back. I'm fine. But
okay.
I would recommend to anybody who doesn't know it, reading Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art.
Oh, I've read it.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's like my Bible. I listened to the audiobook of it with, is it Gerard Doyle is the guy doing the voice? I
have listened to the audiobook before as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's like, it really
I'm the only
is.
one who hasn't.
Yeah, so it's basically your grandpa yelling at you to do art. I mean,
I think he could be a little bit aggressive. Like he was talking about how it's like the enemy, you know, but I do understand what he's saying, where it's like you, your instinct is to sometimes like you stop and then it kills the momentum, and then you don't want to get started because you're like, I don't feel like moving. And something about how, once you're in this like rut, you could just get like stuck in there for the longest period of time. And the quickest way to get out of it is just to start moving your wheels, just to start digging.
Yeah. Well, his whole thing basically is like, if you're an artist and you don't do art, you are going to start ruining your life in order to continue to avoid doing art, which I definitely have found is the case in my own life, where like if I'm not doing art, I'm destructive. And if I'm doing art, then I'm fine.
Same, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I find it that, well, recently I really thought about it because whenever I release a video, I kind of like self-destruct for like a week.
Yeah.
Like I can't touch anything for some weird reason. Like I have to get over that, but it's so new to me where like I put out a video and I'm like, I did it. And then I just have a week of just obsessing and just like getting into this deep depression. And then as soon as I start work again, it's like I pop out of it again. And it's kind of like this balance I need to find in my life, because I do kind of want to take like a day off or 2 days off, but those can be like not fun at all, because all you're doing is thinking about work. You're just thinking about, okay, I want to do this and this and this, and I just want to keep drawing, but then you burn yourself out, and then when you burn yourself out, it just gets worse and worse.
I remember when I used to be in school, if I had like one of the weird psychology of students is the fact that when you aren't studying, you just think about like, oh, I'm wasting my time, or I should be studying right now. Like you'll be like watching TV or something. It's like, oh, I have that test coming up in a week. I should probably be studying for it. I should probably be doing additional homework or something. And I never had that when I would work at a company, because it's a 9 to 5. You go in, you do your job, you come home, and you don't care. That's the end of it. And the problem is that because we're all self-employed, self-motivated people, if we have like 2-3 days that are off where it's like we aren't doing anything, we just kind of like mill around, like thinking about what we're going to do next. And
yeah.
So as far as streaming, I also have a funny story. Was one time I was streaming, and this was the first time I was going to be on camera in front of my fans, because I was doing a Pokemon stream with a friend.
Oh, of course,
and I notified my followers, and they were there. And one time, like, they were talking, and my mom was in the kitchen. She was saying to the dad, like, "Oh, do you want any coffee with something?" And then I went over to mute my mic, and then I leaned over and I said, Mom, don't talk in front of like 200 people. Be quiet, or you're getting in the background." And then what happened is that I hit the mic again, and I noticed that as I'm talking, it's on the muted, and I realized it was muted. Then I unmuted it, and then I muted it again. So I unmuted it, and to just my friends just laughing, and everyone was commenting. And they're giving me crap about that.
That's like, brutal. Nah! Oh my God, that's such a nightmare. I have.
That's so good though.
God, I have such fear of a hot mic in my home.
Oh yeah. I have this paranoia that I'm gonna
I totally get that.
I think I hang up. I have this paranoia that I think I'm gonna hang up on a call and be like, "Oh my God, oh Jesus, thank God, we finally that's over," or something like that.
God, such assholes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. What egomaniacs. And they're like, "Oh God, it's still on, isn't it?" Just a joke.
Yeah. It's the worst because like my setup is in my bedroom. Like I'm sitting in my bedroom right now, and I have a full on mic and everything, and I'm always terrified that like they're just gonna like hear me like working or something. Like even though my mic is like it's right beside me and I know it's not on, but it's like I don't know if I turned off the stream right or if it's just like
absolutely. It's fucking nightmare.
There was another thing which I forgot to bring up. This was actually a while back where you're talking about skill versus luck and background and everything. And I actually forgot to bring this story up. I used to write novels, and I'd written like 5, and they were like smaller ones. They were like 90, or I think like 80,000, 90,000 words. And I decided like, I'll put them up on the internet, and I put them up on like Wattpad or something, and no one read them. No one. I was getting and it's just like it's a fiction work on this place, and plus with Wattpad, it's like it's full like the. So you know how there's like an equilibrium for a lot of websites between content creators and content consumers? The equilibrium on Wattpad is so far to the content creators. where it's like you got a lot of people there putting out work where your work goes in there and it's just gone. And not only that, but it's like it's so hard to find like someone you would like. Like no one's going to go through and read all this different fan fiction or different pieces in there to figure out what they want. And then I was writing on a blog like this random fiction stuff, and I'm like, why aren't people coming to my website? And this was when I was in like high school and college. And I'm like, why would people come to your website? I wouldn't come to the website. Like when you think about it, how often have I randomly clicked on a random website like that?
Yeah.
Like even then, even when you say like clicking on a random website, at least it comes up in your feed. Like with this, someone would have to say, I feel like reading random fiction today. Where can I find random fiction? And then randomly type in my blog and then click on it. Like, how would they even know my name? And then go toward, like, how are people going to figure it out? And then I realized, like, what do I want to watch? What do I want to consume as a consumer? I'm like, well, I like watching videos on YouTube. And it's like, then be on YouTube. And it's like, what do you want to watch on YouTube? It's like, oh, I like things that are funny, and I like things that are animated, and I kind of like D&D stuff. And I was like, there you go, make funny animated D&D videos. And that's how the channel started.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, it was, I started out with I worked at Machinima for a while. I talked to you guys about this before when we were off mic. Which was a really big gaming YouTube channel. I mean, I'm sure some people still know about it, but they were YouTube sort of before YouTube, actually. They started out as like a video hosting site for funny video game videos before YouTube launched. And then when YouTube launched, they just moved all of their videos over to YouTube. But their whole thing was chasing search metrics. I remember every week it was like, okay, what are the game releases going to be? What are the new trailers that are out? Like, what are people searching for that we can put an animated icon next to so that somebody can go, oh, animation, because animation just pulls clicks. And it got so crazy at some point where one of my coworkers used to joke that they were trying to get me to animate the news.
Like the game news almost?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when I really started sort of taking off was when I did what you're talking about, which is just like, I love Acquisitions Incorporated. I'm gonna animate that. And then
that sounds cool. Yeah. I like this. I also like this. I'll put them together.
Yeah, and I did it in like 2 or 3 days. Popped out the animation, and then Penny Arcade basically. I mean, to be honest, Penny Arcade are kingmakers. You know what I mean? More so than I think almost any other people online. Like, they dub motherfuckers, and then they just succeed.
Yeah.
So I got real lucky on that account. But also, I was doing something based on something else, based on what people might actually stumble across. And I don't know. It's different than just like trying to be original and work in a vacuum.
No, I understand. Yeah, because it's so tough. It's so tough. I don't know that many that have really succeeded, although I don't want to put anyone like on the spot, but it's like it is like a lot of times with communities they want to have some kind of an in, or they want to be a little bit familiar with some of the material that you're working with or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that it's kind of like this balance where like you can totally make your own original stuff, like that's totally cool. But sprinkle in some things that people can really like grab onto, because then they're gonna see the rest of your content. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, because like for me, it's just I had a lot of comics about video games I was playing because I thought they were fun and funny, and people would be like, oh yeah, I love this comic, and then they would read through the rest of my comics, know, and even though they weren't game related, they knew they were done by me. So it's just to sprinkle it in, but not to say that we can't do original content.
It's
content. So yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes when I talk to people about it, I describe it as like attention and retention, where it's like you have to get the attention of the audience, like someone who's out there, like, hey, come on over, take a look at this stuff, and then like it's not enough to just get them in the door. Like there has to be something there for them to like, because sometimes you'll see that with channels where they're just chasing the next big thing, but they don't like, people don't like their content, or they aren't like they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it references this thing, but it's not really it's not really for me. And so you get this thing where it's like this, people are coming in and they're leaving, but you can't ever maintain an audience because they're just in and out, in the door, out the other one.
Yeah, because they're making top 10 lists of like bullshit no one cares about. And like that makes, those are the videos that get a lot of views, but it's not a real, the audience doesn't know who you are. So they don't really have like a relationship with you. Okay, but sorry, go ahead.
There's a lot of weird psychology where like, why is it, do people come and they like certain videos, but then they don't like other ones, or they'll come in and then, but they don't connect with the channel and they just leave. Like there's a lot of really weird psychology around that.
Oh, totally. Okay, so how long does it take you guys? And sorry, Dingo, I keep saying guys. I just...
it's fine.
It's the way I grew up.
You monster.
I know.
No, I
How dare, no,
Dingo.
No, Dingo. You need to be offended
friends.
about this.
Like, all my friends were guys, so...
Stop.
Except a few girls,
Dingo, don't...
I'm used to it.
We need to take this guy to task now.
You got to take me to task. All right, well, when Yin's guys make new videos, how much time do you spend generally per minute of runtime in terms of like days worked or hours worked, I guess?
Yeah. I guess it depends. For me, it really depends on kind of like if I'm in the zone. Because a full day's work for me can be about a minute to, if I'm on fire, a minute and a half.
That's
an 8-hour shift for me.
That's insane. You're doing a minute and a half in a day.
I know it's insane, but I also like I said, I do very lazy animation, so I'm just like, and I'm getting faster and faster every time because I recently started a sketchbook and I'm trying to get faster at drawing in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, but on my slow days, I do about 30 seconds.
Oh my goodness. I'm so jealous right now. Like I'm beside myself with jealousy right now. You, in an 8-hour day, you get an hour, or you get a minute and a half done.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's if I'm on fire. That's if I'm like, I know exactly what's going on and I have like all my assets and like I'm using some of my old stuff because I just reuse a lot because, you want to cut as much as you can.
So, from
always
hearing
recycle.
you two, I assume I'm in the middle. So I will say that for me, it's about 40 seconds to 1 minute is what I was going to say per day worth of work. So, Zee, since your animations are, and I mean this like genuinely, like there's so much motion and action, and the characters are very well drawn. Yeah. So, what's your number?
My number is lower. I generally work about 13-hour days, and and I get done with between 15 and, on a really good day, 70 seconds. But usually the 70-second days are Thursdays or Fridays when I'm panicking because I want to get the episode out before the weekend. Yeah. I especially do longer days when I'm working on diagrams, right? But it's so for me, it's also, there's a lot of weird stuff like in my workflow where there was in the past when I didn't have that much time, I was like, oh, I got to crank these out. I didn't have anything in my life. The way it would work was that there would be one day, the day would script the video in the morning, shoot and record it in the afternoon,
edit it in the afternoon, and then immediately start making templates for different characters, and then design some of the backgrounds going into the second day and finish the characters. And so I'd probably get like 20 seconds in by the second day, and then going from there, it'd be like a minute. You're looking at like 50 seconds per day or a minute per day. And so 5 days later, that's when I would have a 5-minute video, and then I would do the finalization, finishing it up on 6th and 7th. And but that was like the animation style was actually fairly different, and plus I was just doing 1 day for the scripting. Now I actually take more time to script the video out, because I realize that so much of the video hinges on that script, that taking that additional day or two to maybe write out 2 scripts or sit on it or something like that, or write some material and then remove some of it, add some more material, like taking that time is going to pay you so much more than just the little amount of work that like the animation takes so long that you got to make sure that you like what you're animating.
Oh yeah, because when you get to that fucking Thursday and you've been animating something you don't like, oh my God. You just want to fling yourself out of the window like, all of this drawing for nothing. Why didn't I just correct this? It would have taken me 2 hours on Monday.
I have there's 2 different cycles that I work on. One is sometimes what'll happen is I'll start out with a video and I'm a little bit demotivated, like, this isn't really my strongest video. And I notice that I'll cut small corners when I'm doing the animation. And then not only that, but I'll be getting towards the end, and it's like, do I really want to invest all this time making this great animation at the end when I've already been cutting all these corners in the middle and at the beginning? So I guess I'll cut the same corners here. And so it causes this downward spiral. Whereas when I start off a video and I'm really motivated, I'm like, and everything's coming in great. And then it's like, no, I want to finish strong. And then it's like, it's this great cycle that you get into.
Go ahead.
I have the kind of the idea where like I'm doing it right now, where I'm working on this video and it's like I was super motivated. It's like, and I'm at about 4 minutes, and now I'm kind of like, all right,
I just want to get it out. You're at the 5 minute, that's when it sets in.
I'm at the 4 or 5 minute mark, and I still have like this video is probably going to be about like 10 minutes or so. So it's kind of like, all right, I got the rest to do.
So my only advice to you, which I don't know if I can give you advice after hearing how quickly you run through footage.
That's okay. Go.
I feel like a student.
Oh yeah, you're like giving advice on like, this is how you'd get through the video quicker. I'm slower than you. Anyway, here's my advice.
That's 100%. That's what I'm saying. Like, but what I would say is just like shoot yourself out of a cannon through the middle of the video and finish strong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the third fourth of the video is, I think, usually the least important part.
Yeah, I kind of get there, because it's like by that point you've established the characters, you've established the situations, and you've already kind of hooked the reader, the listeners, hopefully, by that point. And so it's like, I'm not saying it's like, it starts off great and then goes down to poop smear, but at least like 80%, like at least give it like 80% if you can't do it 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's that thing of like, because that third, fourth is the moment where you're right. You've established everything, and now you're just listing off events. And the events are obviously going to be interesting, but people really what they're interested in is the premise and the resolution. You know what I mean? Like that's what people are really want to know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people will just jump to the end sometimes just to figure out how it goes.
Oh my god,
those people! Some people just want to watch.
I do that all the fucking time.
So you're one of those.
I'm one of them. I don't have time, dude. I've got 13 hours to animate. Like,
no, but I don't know.
You better bump that speed up.
I don't know if anyone else has this problem of like taking a break midway through a project that you're working on. Like, have you guys been working like, oh, I'm going to work for like 4 or 5 days and then take a break and then work another 4 or 5 days? Because for me, it's very hard to do. I call it I almost feel like I'm going underwater where I just have to hold my breath to the end. And it's part of it is it's very difficult for me to come back into a project because something about like I forget where I left things, I forget where I was going, I forget what was supposed to be happening. Whereas if I go through it, I have that energy and that momentum and I just carry it to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. It's really hard where I can't do weekends. Like I can't take off weekends, even though, you know, a normal person should, but I have to at least get something done. Like those are the days when I only get, you know, like the 15 seconds or the 30 seconds for myself done per day, just because I slow down on the weekends. So at least I kind of have a break, but I'm still working because I feel if I left it, I would just, you know, crumble and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Just leave.
Yeah. I have a question for you, though. Have you thought about trying to reduce your stories so that they could work within a week, as opposed to being these bigger things? Is there a way that you can break them up?
I thought about it. It was actually a thing I was thinking about with this one because it's going to be like one video and then there's going to be like a part 2 to it.
Okay.
And because I kind of worked out the script and I thought, nah, it's going to be way too long. So for myself, I was kind of like, okay, I could jump this into even more parts, but I really wanted to put it all into one video, and I think, I don't know, I've definitely thought about it.
It'll probably benefit from that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really too stricken on being like, I want to make sure I put out a video every 2 weeks or something that. I still am in that mode of like, I don't want any time constraints for myself.
Yeah.
Even though for some reason I always feel like I'm up against the clock, even though there's nobody behind me that's like,
it's like
you gotta
we
put
set
this
these
out.
weird deadlines for ourselves. Like we got to have it out by Wednesday. It's like, or you could just do Thursday.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, no, Wednesday.
Definitely.
It's weird.
No, it's actually I will also answer that question where it's like I have thought about like reducing it or maybe like doing it like 5 minutes or 4 minutes. Like I could probably do like a video a week if I kept them to around 4 minutes. And honestly, right now I'm kind of experimenting with different times. I do know that with certain subject material, it's like I want the full story. Like for me, I don't like cutting a story sometimes between two, part 1 and part 2. Or if I do, I want to release both of them at the same time. Like, for example, with the obelisk encounter video, I was originally scripting it. Like, maybe I was going to separate into part 1 and part 2. And it would just be like, okay, I'm starting with the players. They're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then they knock over the obelisk, end of part 1. And it's like, that's kind of a cliffhanger, but that part as a complete story like doesn't work. Like it's just building up, and then it ends. And so I was worrying, like, let's say I release that video, like, oh hey, come look at this cool video. What is it? And it's just the part 1, and then the second one is not out yet. Like, what's gonna happen? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I mean, especially, I think that almost would have worked, but the problem is that the act break makes sense for part 1. Like that is a cool cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But but part 2 wouldn't be a story.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because it would just be like this bad thing happens, and that's the whole episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think yeah, that totally makes sense.
I will say that I am more cognizant of the fact that sometimes I'll have this material and it's like, oh, it's not going to fit into this video, and I'm totally okay now with just kicking it to another video and just being like, I'll just use it for something else because it's like I'm going to have another video coming along.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can't do more than I want to say like 130 seconds. That's sort of my That's my hard limit for a week.
Yeah.
And so it definitely changes the format a little bit of the videos, where it's like, I feel like mine are maybe more like they have the flow of a joke more than the flow of a story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand like that. Yeah.
Like they're not jokes, but they have the flow of a joke. Like,
yeah.
They're almost kind of like a few several strips of a comic kind of a thing. That's kind of what I get the feeling of. And not just like a 4-panel strip, but like a fairly long thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you guys for coming, and thanks to Zee.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Puffin.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for being here. And also with Dingo.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me talk to you guys. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cool. All right.
It was cool.
And hopefully we might have another roundtable sometime. We'll just see. Anyway.
All right.
And all right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Internet. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
So fucking awkward.
Yeah. It's just the mount and the dismount are not smooth. The middle's pretty good.
People on horseback can tell you the way you do the mount and dismount, it's just like whump onto the ground, just throw your entire body off.
Yeah. Hey, this is Z. Actually, I realized something after the interview, which I never said, which is that the 3rd season of the animated spellbook is coming out Friday the 3rd of August. Thank you, and thanks again to Puffin for hosting this interview.